Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping straight into the timeline of one of the most quietly devastating pieces of English literature, H.E. Bates' The Goats. Or skipping the background theory to walk chronologically through the stark, relentless sequence of events that define this plot. We're going to trace 15 years of tireless labor, a catastrophic murder, the deeply stoic reaction that follows, and ultimately a crushing betrayal. It's a harrowing masterclass in silent tragedy, so settle in, because this sequence of events is really going to challenge how we view the concepts of strength, sacrifice, and mere survival. Picture a woman dragging a rusty, overloaded bicycle through a muddy, unpaved lane. She isn't riding it, she's dragging it, loaded down with way more than she can reasonably carry. This is our protagonist, Mrs. Thurlow. Bates doesn't give us a character with vibrant hobbies or a rich inner monologue. No, he gives us a woman defined entirely by what her physical body can endure. Her bones are lumpy, her feet are heavy, and that bicycle, it's not a vehicle of freedom. It is literally a yoke. It's this intensely visceral symbol of her grueling day-to-day reality. For 15 long years, Mrs. Thurlow's life looks exactly like this. She acts as a beast of burden with unshakable discipline, working as both a maid and a laborer. It's just endless hauling, scrubbing, and sweating. But here's the thing. It is never for herself. Every single penny she relentlessly scrapes together over a decade and a half is meticulously saved for her two sons. She is entirely trading her youth and physical comfort to secure a future she'll never get to experience.
54 pounds. That's the number. By the time the story catches up to her, she has saved exactly 54 pounds. You really have to grasp the sheer weight of that number in her bleak world. It's not just cash. It's a decade and a half of a woman's life compressed into currency. Because she's not a woman of words, this stack of money is quite literally her only tangible way to say, I love you to her boys. It's thousands of hours of unseen suffering sitting right there in physical form.
Then, out of absolutely nowhere, the inciting tragedy hits. Mrs. Thurlow's husband, a man deeply damaged physically and psychologically by World War I, commits a brutal, senseless murder. Suddenly, that quiet, repetitive rhythm of Mrs. Thurlow's labor is violently shattered. The ultimate crime drags her silent, unseen life directly into a very public, unforgiving spotlight.
But the murder actually isn't the only crime he commits. Before facing the music, her husband enacts a staggering, intensely personal betrayal. He steals her entire life savings, all 54 pounds. Just think about the unfathomable cruelty of that for a second. Every scrubbed floor, every hauled load over 15 years vanishes overnight. He takes the absolute only physical evidence of her maternal love and just disappears into the night.
Well, he doesn't get away with it. He's caught by the authorities, tried, and executed. He is hanged. And in one swift, blunt force stroke, Mrs. Thurlow's world is wiped out. She loses her husband, and she loses her money. The fragile ecosystem she sacrificed her entire body to maintain is completely and irrevocably eradicated. Now, if a tragedy of this unimaginable scale struck most people, you'd expect a total collapse, right? Screaming, weeping, the whole 9 yards. But Mrs. Thurlow displays absolutely no emotional breakdown. She absorbs the catastrophic blow exactly the way an ox absorbs a heavier load placed on its back. She doesn't scream, she doesn't fall to her knees, she simply keeps walking, and she keeps working, internalizing a pain that is just far too vast for words.
This remarkable lack of a breakdown forces us to look at the crucial difference between resilience and mere endurance. She does not bounce back with resilience. Resilience means adapting, rebuilding a new, stronger sense of self. Mrs. Thurlow merely endures. She absorbs the damage without breaking, but crucially, without changing her fundamental nature. She doesn't set a hopeful new goal. Her endurance isn't framed as heroic. It's a slow, agonizing erosion of her spirit as she just goes right back to her toil. In the immediate fallout of the murder, she makes one final, heartbreaking sacrifice. Knowing her sons will forever be branded with the severe social shame of being the murderer's children, if they stay, she sends them away to live with her brother. Think about the gravity of that choice. To protect them, she deliberately strips her own life of its absolute only source of joy, surrendering the daily presence of the only people she loves. But this fiercely protective instinct leads to the story's cruelest twist. Because her brother lives near a much more affluent uncle, the sons are suddenly presented with two entirely different ways of living. On one side, their mother, labor-worn, rough-handed, silent, almost mechanical. On the other, the uncle's world, comfortable, refined, and socially acceptable. By sending them away to save them, Mrs. Thurlow inadvertently shows her boys a world where people simply don't have to live like beasts of burden.
And inevitably, something fundamental shifts in the boys. Exposed to this comfortable new reality, they begin to look back at their labor-worn mother not as a savior, but as a source of embarrassment. They shift their loyalty to the affluent uncle and actively reject her. It's the ultimate betrayal, honestly, way deeper than the stolen money. Her one singular dream entirely collapses. She successfully shielded them from shame, but in doing so, she became a creature they could no longer relate to. It's a grim countdown of accumulating, unbearable losses that maps out her total erosion. First, the savings were taken, wiping out her past. Then her husband was executed, wiping out her present structure. Then her sons rejected her, wiping out her entire future. Finally, all that's left to lose is the self. Every single tragedy stripped away a little more of her humanity until she is left profoundly isolated, with absolutely nothing left to take. Ultimately, we're left with a chillingly quiet conclusion. There's no grand redemption arc here, no comforting realization, no final tearful reconciliation with her estranged boys. The narrative voice stays completely objective and brutally unsentimental. Bates forces us to simply watch as Mrs. Thurlow returns to her solitary, ox-like work and works and works, right up until her unceremonious death, destroyed not by one glorious explosion, but by the slow, silent accumulation of tragedy. So, to wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with something provocative to ponder. After looking at this relentless sequence of events, from the overloaded bicycle in the mud, to the stolen 54 pounds, to the quiet rejection by her own flesh and blood, ask yourself, is Mrs. Thurlow the strongest woman in English literature, or the saddest? It really forces us to confront the true cost of survival, reminding us that sometimes resilience is just a comforting word we use for enduring the completely intolerable. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive into the profound devastation of the ox.